I finally completely broke the camping chair that I have been using at my desk for the last few months, which means that I needed a replacement. Welcome to the Hippie Geeks. Let's take a look at the Mainstays mid-back office chair, possibly the most mediocre chair that I have ever had the chance to use. Before I can actually use the chair, I am going to need to get it unpacked and assembled. The top has several places that it is taped together, which made me think that it was going to be pretty easy to open. However, they decided to fully glue the pieces of cardboard together, so I am not sure why they bothered taping it as well. That seems like a bit of overkill, but at least it was kept closed and I can't really complain about that. Once the flaps are actually open, the first thing you are going to see is a piece of cardboard warning you that most of the parts of the chair are actually located in the back of the chair, and to make sure to unzip it to remove all of the parts before trying to assemble the chair. That is good to know, so I set that aside and started pulling the pieces of the chair out of the box. The next thing you are going to see is a red tag that is attached to the back of the chair, reminding you that all of the pieces are in that part of the chair. They really don't want you to miss that before you start assembling the whole thing. Inside the box, you are going to find the bottom cushion, which does not have any of the parts inside of it, thankfully. Then there is the back that they have reminded us twice has the other parts inside of it. Next up is the box that has the piston in it, and then we have the chair base that will go onto the bottom cushion to receive the piston. After that, I just need to get rid of the box so that we can move on to assembly. First up, I am going to go ahead and get the packaging off of the chair base so that it is ready for later. After that, I am going to go ahead and unpack the piston as well, again so that it is ready for later in the process. It is finally time to check out the hidden stash that is inside of the seat back and see just how much they managed to stuff in here. There is a piece of cardboard that has that red tag that I noticed earlier, and we can just toss that aside now. Next up are the 5 wheels that we will end up installing later, followed by the center of the base that we will install the legs onto later. Then we are going to pull out the package that has the chair arms and the pack of screws, followed by the package of legs. They really managed to squeeze a lot of stuff in there, and I suppose you could use the back of the chair as a hidden stash if you have anything that you want to keep hidden inside of an office chair. Once that has all been removed though, I am going to go ahead and zip the chair back up so that it is ready for later. After that, we are going to unwrap the chair bottom, and this is where you are going to find the instruction manual. I normally just ignore those things, but with a mediocre chair like this, I want to give it the best chance possible to survive more than a couple of weeks, so I am going to go ahead and follow those instructions. Next up, it is time to get the legs removed from their package, and it is nice to see that they have them all individually packaged to keep them from getting scratched up. The only downside is all of the plastic garbage that is going to need to be thrown away at the end of this assembly, but at least we can recycle all of the cardboard. I am going to grab the center of the base next, as it is going to be time to get those legs attached to it. There is more plastic waste to get through, but again it survived without getting scratched up. Once it is all unwrapped, it is time to start putting it together, finally. You can tell which way the center and the legs go together, as there are holes in the bottom of the legs that you need to line up with the captive nuts that are in the centerpiece. Looking at the little package of screws, we are going to need to get out a couple of things. First up is the worst little Allen wrench that I have ever seen, and if you think that it is going to actually survive for the entire assembly, you would be wrong. After that, I need to grab the set of 5 screws that are going to hold all of this together. As long as you have the holes lined up, the screws will get started pretty easily. I am going to get all 5 of them started before tightening them down completely, which will make sure that none of the legs fly off and get scratched up or break something valuable, like one of my toes. I am going to tighten these down pretty well, as most of the weight and forces from sitting in this chair are going to be working against these little screws. After that, it is time to put the bottom shield on, though you really don't need this as it is a cosmetic piece. It just pulls apart into 2 pieces that you put back together around the base, but before I do the final install, I am going to make one more round tightening the screw up, just to make sure. Then it is time to get all 5 of the wheels out of their package and install them into the legs that we just assembled. It takes a bit of force to get them in there, but with a little push they will eventually snap into place. And while they are all plastic, I am hoping that they don't break on me when I am trying to wheel around the studio. Next up, it is time to get the piston put into place, and this part is pretty easy. All you have to do is put the fat side down into the base, and after that you just need to push this out of the way as it is time to assemble the padded pieces of the chair. Now it is time to unwrap the chair arms and then toss the packaging onto the growing pile that you can see over on the right side of the screen. For the next part, we are going to need the set of 8 screws, so I'm going to go ahead and get those out of the package now. Finally, grab the seat back and bottom and set them into place next to each other. The arms can only really go one way, so figure out which one is going to match up with the side you have on top and get the holes in the arms aligned with the captive nuts that are in the chair itself. At this point, do not tighten them down all the way, as this thing barely wants to go together when there is some flexibility in it, and if you tighten it down now, you are really going to get into some trouble on the other side. Speaking of the other side, it is time to get these ones started, and again, before tightening any of them down, make sure to get all 4 started. They are really not fond of getting started without cross-threading, but I eventually did get them going. This is when things started to go downhill with the provided Allen wrench, and I could feel it starting to round off. I was just hoping that it would make it through the rest of the assembly process. Spoiler warning, it doesn't. I did manage to get all 4 of these tightened up, however, and then flip the seat back over to finish tightening down the other side. Once the other side was tightened, this side really didn't want to finish tightening down, and I wasn't sure that the screws were going to go in. If I hadn't already started them, I would have thought that they were cross-threaded. However, they had decided to ruin the poor Allen wrench once and for all, which leads to this bit of silliness. I was so close to being done that I just wanted it to work, and I even tried grabbing my Leatherman to use the Allen wrench the wrong way where there is no leverage, but to no avail. I finally broke and went to get my Allen wrench sets out of the toolbox. Of course, I ended up grabbing the Imperial set first, which I should have known wouldn't work out as these were definitely going to be metric. They absolutely were, and if you need to grab one like I did, it is the 5.0 wrench that ended up being the one. Now that I had the right wrench, I was able to finish tightening all 8 of the screws up so that these were fully connected. I should have honestly just grabbed this set in the beginning, as they are longer, which gives me more leverage and just makes it easier in general to use them. At least I am using it now though, and I made sure to torque all 8 of them down, including the ones on the other side that I had tightening with the included wrench. Once they were all secured, it is time to get the base attached to the bottom of the seat. Inside of the screw packet, there are only 4 more screws left, which means those must be the ones that I am going to use here. Again, I started all 4 of them first before tightening any of them down, as I want to make sure that they are all able to be started. Once they were all in the spots that I wanted, I went ahead and cranked them all down pretty tightly, as again, this is not something that I want coming loose. The screws all do have some thread locker on them, so they should stay connected, but only time will tell. After that, the next thing that needs to be done is to set the seat base onto the top of the piston. Then you need to make sure to hit the seat in the middle right over the piston and say that's not going anywhere. That part is very important, and if you don't, the whole thing will probably fall apart the second you look away from it. Finally, the last thing we need to do is grab the plastic plugs out of the screw package and put them into the chair arms to hide the 8 screws that are holding the whole thing together. This part is also not necessary as it is purely cosmetic, but seeing as how the other option is throwing them away with the rest of the garbage pile, I am going to go ahead and install them. Now it is finally time to take a seat in this thing, and it is definitely a chair. There are 2 adjustments, and here you can see me changing one of them. The twisty handle on the bottom of the chair will change how stiff the rocking mechanism is when you want to lean back, and I like to loosen it up all the way. The other adjustment is the height, and the handle on the side of the chair is what lets you bring it up or down. For those that are curious, when the chair is set to its lowest point, the seat is about 19 inches above the floor, and at its highest point, it is 22 inches, so there is about 3 inches of difference. So here I am in the seat for the first time, and it is okay. Not the best chair I have ever sat in, and not the worst. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, it is very, very mediocre. I didn't want to try out the cheapest chair that Walmart had, and I certainly didn't want to get the most expensive one, so I settled here. At $88, this is definitely not cheap. Honestly, for $88 I was hoping for a bit more, but this is the world that we live in now. I am going to have to see how long this thing actually lasts, but at least it has free 90-day returns. I suppose I will revisit this 90 days from now to see if I still have it, but for now it is at least better than broken camp chair, so it has hit the minimum requirements to keeping it for now at least.